This episode is based on soldier diaries, medic notes, and after-action reports recovered from the United States Army archives. The voices you'll hear come from the men who fought in the coldest winter of World War II. 3 months under ice. 1 letter, 1 name. December 1944. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Nazi Germany launched its last major offensive on the Western Front. The attack came without warning. Thousands of American soldiers found themselves cut off, surrounded, and freezing. This is the story of one private, 1 letter he wrote but never mailed, and the spring thaw that brought it home. His name was Private Michael Harris, age 19, from Pennsylvania, a rifleman in the 327th Glider Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. Mike had been in Europe for 4 months. He'd jumped into Normandy. He'd fought through Holland. And in December of 1944, he was defending the town of Bastogne. On December 21st, Mike started writing a letter to his girlfriend Mary. In March of 1945, an engineer found the letter during mine-clearing operations. The paper was stained, some words were illegible, but enough remained to tell Mike's story. The question this episode explores: what did that letter say? And what does it reveal about the men who held Bastogne against impossible odds? December 16th, 1944. 0530 hours. German artillery opened fire along an 80-mile front in the Ardennes. Operation Wacht am Rhein. Watch on the Rhine. Hitler's plan. Break through Allied lines, capture the port of Antwerp, split the British and American armies, and force a negotiated peace. The attack caught the Allies by surprise. Fog and snow grounded Allied aircraft. German armor poured through gaps in the American line. Towns fell within hours. Units were surrounded. Communication broke down. The 101st Airborne was in reserve near Reims, France. On December 18th, they received orders. Move to Bastogne. Hold the crossroads. Do not let the Germans pass. Mike's regiment loaded onto trucks. They drove through the night. Cold. No winter gear. No clear intelligence on enemy positions. Just orders. Get to Bastogne and dig in. They arrived on December 19th. The town was already under attack. German forces had encircled Bastogne by December 21st. The siege had begun. Let me describe the conditions. December 1944 was one of the coldest winters in European history. Temperatures dropped to -20 degrees Celsius, -4 Fahrenheit. Snow fell constantly. Visibility was near zero. The soldiers had no winter uniforms. They wore standard wool jackets and leather boots. Not enough. Frostbite was epidemic. Soldiers stuffed newspaper into their boots for insulation. They wrapped parachute silk around their hands. They shared blankets in 2-man foxholes. Food was scarce. The daily ration, 1 K-ration box, crackers, cheese, canned meat, chocolate bar, instant coffee, roughly 2,400 calories. Not enough for men digging foxholes and standing watch in sub-zero cold. Ammunition was rationed. Officers counted bullets. Fire discipline was absolute. Do not waste shots. Make every round count. Artillery support was limited. The roads into Bastogne were cut. No resupply. No reinforcements. Just hold. Mike wrote in his diary on December 20th. Cold like I never felt. Feet numb. Can't feel my fingers. Sarge says we hold this crossroad or the whole line falls. No choice. December 21st. Mike sat in a foxhole with his buddy, Corporal Danny O'Connor. They'd scraped out a shallow trench under a cluster of pine trees. Snow covered their helmets. Their rifles were wrapped in rags to keep the actions from freezing. Mike pulled out a pencil and a piece of paper. Folded, V-mail stationery. He'd been carrying it for weeks. He started writing. Dear Mary, I don't know when you'll get this. Mail isn't moving right now. We're in Belgium. A town called Bastogne. The Germans have us surrounded. But don't worry, we're holding. It's cold. Colder than home in January. I think about your letters. I read them every night. They keep me warm. I want to tell you something. When this is over, when I get home, I want to marry you. I know we talked about waiting, but I don't want to wait anymore. Life's too short. I love you, Mary. I'll be home by spring. Mike stopped writing. Artillery fire in the distance. He folded the letter and put it in his jacket pocket. He'd finish it later, mail it when the roads opened. December 22nd. German forces tightened the noose around Bastogne. Patrols probed the American lines. Mortar fire increased. The 100 first held. That morning, German officers approached the American lines under a white flag. They delivered an ultimatum. Surrender or be annihilated. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, acting division commander, sent back a one-word reply. Nuts. The message confused the Germans. But it electrified the Americans. Nuts. We're not surrendering. We're holding. Mike heard the story from his company commander. He smiled. First time he'd smiled in days. Danny said, "That's the spirit. We're not going anywhere." But the cold was getting worse, and so was the hunger. Mike's K-ration ran out. He shared crackers with Danny. 2 crackers for breakfast, 2 for dinner. Water from melted snow. It tasted like pine needles and dirt. Mike's feet were numb. He couldn't feel his toes. He took off his boots and rubbed his feet. The skin was white. Frostbite. He put the boots back on, kept moving, kept the blood flowing. December 23rd. Early morning. The weather cleared. For the first time in a week, the sky was visible. The men looked up, and they saw aircraft. American aircraft. Transports. Supply drop. Parachutes filled the sky. Bundles of ammunition. Medical supplies. Food. Blankets. Some landed inside American lines. Some landed in the German sector. The men scrambled to recover what they could. Mike's platoon retrieved 2 bundles. One contained rifle ammunition, the other canned rations and coffee. They divided it equally, half a can of beans per man, 1 cup of coffee. It felt like a feast. But the relief was short-lived. That afternoon, German artillery resumed. Tree-burst shells. Artillery rounds that detonated in the treetops, sending shrapnel down into the foxholes. Deadly, inescapable. Mike and Danny pressed themselves into the bottom of their foxhole. Explosions overhead. Wood splinters. Metal fragments. The noise was unbearable. Mike's ears rang. He couldn't hear Danny shouting next to him. The barrage lasted 20 minutes. When it stopped, Mike looked around. 3 men in his platoon were wounded. 1 was dead. The medic crawled from foxhole to foxhole. He had morphine, but not enough bandages. December 24th. Christmas Eve. The company commander called for volunteers. Night patrol. Scout enemy positions along the frozen creek bed. 2 men needed. Mike volunteered. So did Danny. They blackened their faces with charcoal. Checked their rifles. Filled their pockets with extra magazines. At 2200 hours, they crawled out of the foxhole and moved into the tree line. The forest was silent. Snow muffled every sound. Mike could see his breath in the moonlight. He moved slowly. 1 step, pause, listen. Another step. They reached the creek, frozen solid. They crossed carefully. Ice cracked under their boots, too loud. They froze, waited. No response from the German lines. On the far side, they spotted movement. German soldiers, maybe 50 yards away. Voices. Low. Mike counted 4 men. Possibly a forward observation post. Mike and Danny marked the position on their map. Mission complete. Time to return. They retraced their steps. Slow. Quiet. Halfway back, Danny slipped on the ice. His rifle clattered against a rock. The sound echoed. Gunfire erupted. German machine gun. Mike and Danny ran. Bullets snapped through the trees. They dove into a snowbank, crawled, scrambled. Made it back to American lines. Danny was hit, a graze across his shoulder, bleeding but not serious. The medic patched him up. Mike sat in the foxhole, shaking. Not from cold, from adrenaline. December 25th, Christmas Day. No celebration, just survival. Mike pulled out the letter to Mary. He wanted to finish it, but he didn't know what to write. He stared at the paper. The words he'd written days ago seemed distant, naive. "I'll be home by spring." Would he? He didn't know. He added one more line. "If I can't post this, I hope someone finds it. Tell Mary I was thinking of her. Tell her I wanted to come home." Mike folded the letter, put it back in his jacket pocket, inside pocket, close to his chest. Safe. That night, the temperature dropped even further. Mike and Danny huddled together in the foxhole. They didn't talk. There was nothing to say. Just wait. Wait for resupply. Wait for reinforcements. Wait for the siege to break. Mike thought about Mary, her smile, her letters, the life they'd planned. He closed his eyes, tried to sleep. The cold wouldn't let him. December 26th. General George Patton's Third Army broke through the German lines. Tanks rolled into Bastogne. The siege was lifted. Mike's regiment was relieved. They were pulled back from the front lines. Hot food, clean water, medical attention. Mike's feet were treated for frostbite. Severe, but not crippling. He'd keep his toes. Danny's shoulder healed. They were reassigned to another sector. The fighting continued. But Bastogne was secure. Mike never mailed the letter. In the chaos of rotation and reassignment, he forgot about it. The letter stayed in his jacket pocket. Frozen. Buried in the layers of wool and mud. January passed, February passed. The snow began to melt. Spring came to the Ardennes. Mike Harris was killed in action on March 2nd, 1945. Enemy sniper, one shot, instant. His body was recovered and buried in a temporary cemetery near the front. The letter remained in his jacket. March 28th, 1945. A U.S. Army Engineer Unit was clearing mines and unexploded ordnance near Bastogne. Corporal James Miller was sweeping a muddy field when he spotted something unusual. A piece of paper, half buried in the thaw, stained brown with mud and blood, but still readable. James picked it up carefully, unfolded it. The handwriting was shaky but legible. "Dear Mary, I don't know when you'll get this. Mail isn't moving right now. We're in Belgium, a town called Bastogne. The Germans have us surrounded. But don't worry, we're holding." James read further. The letter was unfinished, but at the bottom, a name. Private Michael Harris, 327th Glider, Infantry Regiment. James reported the find to his commanding officer. The officer checked the records. Private Harris, killed in action, March 2nd. His personal effects had been sent home, but not this letter. It had been lost. The officer made a decision. Send it to his next of kin. The letter was placed in an envelope, addressed to Mary Collins, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Stamped. Recovered personal effects. April 15th, 1945. Mary Collins received a letter. U.S. Army postmark. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was Mike's letter. Stained, incomplete. But his words, his handwriting, the last thing he wrote to her. Mary sat down and read it, over and over. She cried. She smiled. She held the paper to her chest. "I'll be home by spring." Spring had come, but Mike hadn't. The letter arrived instead. Mary kept the letter for the rest of her life. She framed it, hung it on her bedroom wall. Every morning, she read it. Every night, she said goodnight to Mike. In 1947, Mary married someone else. She had children. She built a life. But she never forgot Mike. She told her children about him, about the boy who wanted to marry her, about the letter that came home when he couldn't. The Battle of the Bulge lasted 6 weeks, from December 16th, 1944 to January 25th, 1945. It was the largest and bloodiest battle fought by the United States in World War II. Over 80,000 American casualties, 19,000 killed. Bastogne became a symbol of American determination. The 101st Airborne held the town against overwhelming odds: cold, hunger, isolation. They refused to surrender. Private Mike Harris was one of thousands who never made it home, but his letter did, and through that letter, his voice survived. Today, the town of Bastogne honors the soldiers who fought there. Museums, memorials, annual commemorations. Visitors walk the foxholes. They see the forests where men froze. They read the names of the fallen. Mike's letter is now part of a private family collection. Mary's grandson donated a copy to the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. It's displayed alongside other letters from Bastogne, a reminder of the human cost of war. If your family has Battle of the Bulge letters, diaries, or photographs, we'd love to hear about them. Leave a comment below, share a memory, help us preserve these voices. In our next episode, we'll explore another hidden story from the frozen front, a medic's log. One night, 12 wounded. And the choice that saved lives. Subscribe for weekly long-form episodes based on letters, logs, and first-hand accounts. New episodes every week. Thank you for listening. And thank you to the men who held Bastogne, the men who wrote letters they never mailed, the men who promised to come home by spring. Spring came, and so did the letter.